if you're a man over 40, you probably know this feeling all too well. That deep, kind of gut-wrenching anxiety when life throws a major curveball your way. Well, today, we're going to break down exactly why that happens. And more importantly, we'll dive into a really powerful ancient framework for not just dealing with change, but actually using it to your advantage. Okay, let's dive right in. First things first, we've got to acknowledge the feeling itself, right? That knot in your stomach when it feels like the ground is just shifting right under your feet. It's a very real and, believe me, a very common anxiety around instability. So here's the first question we have to ask ourselves. When you're thinking about these big, kind of scary life changes, are you actually afraid of the future? Is it just the simple fact that you don't know what's coming next? That's a totally natural place for your mind to go, but it might not be the whole story. Because what if we reframe it? What if the real fear, the thing that's actually getting to you, isn't the change itself, but the feeling that you're not in the driver's seat anymore? That someone else flipped the script on your life and you didn't even get a say. Now that is a really crucial distinction. And look, this feeling doesn't just pop up out of thin air, right? It's usually sparked by these huge, destabilizing life events. We're talking about a sudden layoff, a scary health diagnosis, that really profound shift when your kids finally leave home. Or maybe it's watching your entire industry get turned upside down. I mean, these are the moments that really shake us to our core. So if any of this is resonating with you, I really want you to hear this. This is not a personal failing. It is absolutely not a sign of weakness. It's actually a hardwired biological response. Your brain is basically running on ancient software, and that software is programmed to treat the unknown as an existential threat. And this is where it gets super interesting, because there's this huge mismatch. You see, for our ancient brain, uncertainty meant, hey, there might be a tiger in those bushes. Predictability meant survival. But in our modern lives, uncertainty isn't about a physical threat. It's about an identity shift. And our sense of survival is all tied up in our routine, our job title, our role in the family. And here's the kicker, the real problem. Your nervous system literally cannot tell the difference. It fires off the exact same fight or flight alarm bells for a career transition as it would for a tiger walking into the room. And what's the result? Panic, paralysis, and this desperate, frantic attempt to control every little thing. So all of this leads us right to the absolute core of modern anxiety. And it's something the Stoics figured out thousands of years ago. It's our futile, completely exhausting attempt to control things that are, well, simply uncontrollable. They had a name for it, the illusion of control. And this is where we get their most powerful tool, maybe the most powerful tool in the whole Stoic toolkit. It's called the Dichotomy of Control. And honestly, it's a beautifully simple but brutally effective idea. It's all about learning to separate what's truly in your control from what it's not. You control your actions, your choices, your responses. You do not control the final outcome. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus just laid this out so clearly. His core message was simple. Focus your energy only on your own actions and your own character. Why? Because everything else, your reputation, the stock market, what other people decide to do, that's all outside your command. And trying to control it, wasting all that energy there, that's the root of all our anxiety. So what this does is it creates two very, very different paths you can walk down. On one side, you've got the fragile man. He relies on rigid plans. He tries to control every single outcome. And his ego just completely panics the second that structure starts to shake. But then you have the durable man. He practices adaptability. He focuses on self-command. And his identity? It's completely independent of his job title or his current status. Okay, so that's the diagnosis. We know the problem. The big question is, how do you actually do it? How do you shift from being fragile to being durable? Well, let's get practical. We're going to walk through a 3-step Stoic framework to basically engineer your own personal evolution. And you can start this today. And just to be super clear, this isn't some abstract philosophy you just think about. No, this is an active training regimen. It's a workout for your mind. The whole process really boils down to 3 key exercises: a daily fear audit, reframing instability as a form of training, and then choosing one voluntary discomfort. All right, step 1, the daily fear audit. This is so simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Every single evening, just take a minute and ask yourself, where did my fear of change or my fear of losing control influence my decisions today? Did I avoid that tough conversation I needed to have? Did I put off learning that new skill because it felt intimidating? And the goal here is not to beat yourself up, not at all. It's just to observe, to see it, to name it.
Okay, step 2 is all about a conscious mental reframe. So when that next disruption hits, and it will, instead of that default reaction that, this shouldn't be happening, I want you to try telling yourself this is training. You're reframing the threat as resistance training for your mind. It's like going to the gym. Every challenge becomes a rep that strengthens your decision-making and your emotional control.
And finally, step 3. This is where the rubber meets the road, because this is all about action. Look, we don't get over fear by just thinking about it. We get over it by acting through it. So, this week, your mission is to choose one small, deliberate action that pushes you just a little bit out of your comfort zone. Go have that difficult conversation. Sign up for that class you've been putting off. Just make one small pivot. You build real confidence through exposure. So you do these things consistently. And what happens? Well, you start building your real advantage. Because let's be honest, after 40, the rules of the game have completely changed. You're just not playing the same game as a 25-year-old anymore. And you know what? That is a very, very good thing. Look, you're not competing on speed anymore. You're not competing on youthful aggression. Your new arena, your new superpower, is stability. It's what the Stoics called internal sovereignty. And what does that mean? It's the ability to stay calm, steady, and clear-headed when everyone else around you is completely losing their minds. And in today's world, that is a genuine superpower. Now, this gets to a really common misunderstanding about Stoicism. When you hear Stoic indifference, it's easy to think it means apathy or just not caring about anything. But that's not it at all. It's about cultivating a calm strength in a world that, let's face it, is never going to be stable for you. The world isn't going to change to make you comfortable. You have to stabilize yourself from the inside. And that brings us right back to the beginning, to the fundamental insight of this whole thing. The fear has been mislabeled all along. For most of us, especially over 40, that deep anxiety we feel, it's not actually about change. It's about that terrifying gut punch feeling of losing control. So the solution, the path forward, is a radical shift in your focus. You have to stop the exhausting, soul-crushing chase of trying to control external things, events, people, outcomes. It's a game you can't win. Instead, you redirect all of that energy inward. You train your internal world, your responses, your perspective, your character. That is where your true power has been all along. And that, right there, is how you stop being afraid of change and start using it. You turn it into fuel, an opportunity to become stronger, calmer, and more centered than ever before. So I'll leave you with one final question to think about. What change, what disruption in your life right now will you start using as your training ground this week?